My name is Althea Simpson. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapist supervisor. I incorporate Legos into my work with children. Hey, Erica, how are you? Thanks for joining. I incorporate Legos in my work with children. I am a certified Lego serious play facilitator. So what that means is I went through Lego's training to become a facilitator, but Lego serious play is actually a business methodology. And so while I was doing the training for my consulting business, I was like, oh my goodness, I can easily incorporate this into my practice as a registered play therapist. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years. I've been using Lego-based play therapy in my practice. I never used Legos in my practice before 2 years ago because I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. People would say, Althea, are you going to do a training on Legos? And I was like, no, because it doesn't make sense to me. And it just didn't click when people would tell me how they used Legos in their work. And so it clicked for me when I went through the Lego Serious Play facilitator certification. And because it is based off of cognitive principles, I was able to make the connection of how I can use it in play therapy. And so I am more of a non-directive and directive-based play therapist. So having it go from a core step model just made sense to me. And so Lego Serious Play uses a 4-step, well, 7 steps, but depending on who you get your training from, you may not get the 7 steps because I think only the original, one of the original creators have the extra 3 steps in his model. But you pose a question, right? And so being able to pose the question, then you have them to build from meaning. So what is the meaning? So, and for me, like I said, I'm more focused. So non-directive, directive. So I use Legos in a more focused way. Building, so you ask the question, you build, you tell the story, and then you reflect. You learn and reflect. So you learning from the client what's going on in their world. And so using Legos and the method, doing, what do you call it, the metaphorical construct of it is telling stories. And the reason I stay in the metaphor, unless the client want to come out of the metaphor, is because it creates that distance for the client. So if the client is in a metaphor, I stay in that metaphor. I don't try to bring it to real life for them. I primarily work with children and families that's involved in the foster care system, and I deal with a lot of trauma. So I pretty much stay in that metaphor for the with the client, and I don't take it out until they're properly resourced. And so I do a lot of assessment-based activities. I don't know if you're familiar with trauma narratives. So using trauma narratives, if a client is not ready to do a trauma narrative, or you're not sure if a client is ready to do a trauma narrative, you want to do a neutral narrative. So I use Legos to do neutral narratives, and that's just assessment based activities. And I'm going to show you 2 of those today. I had fun this afternoon building the models that I'm going to show you. So I just want you to know that these are my models, not clients' models, but some of the information is derived from the population that I work with. But I had fun creating my Lego models. But so you do neutral narratives, and then when you see the client start to move into talking about their own experiences, then you know that they're gaining those resources, or they're properly resourced for you to start going into the trauma content, right? So I'm just going to get into it. 2 of the activities that I love to do, and I use them as an assessment based model. And I'm going to start off with trying to show it via my laptop. If not, then I have my document camera that I can plug into my laptop to show more detail. So you pose a question, and so you frame the question. But one of the things when I start with Legos, because I get some clients, and I use Legos and play therapy with clients across the lifespan. So my oldest client is in their 70s, right? And we use Legos. I use Legos with couples. I use Legos with family. Play therapy in general, but we're talking about Legos today. And sometimes I get a side eye. You know, they looking at me like, you want me to do what? You want me to come into your office and play with Legos? Well, since COVID, I've been strictly online. So, but they still have their Legos. Some even ordered Legos to continue their Lego work. So you may get some people who are skeptical about using Legos or sand tray or even play therapy in general. But for me, it's about building that relationship. And I have a relationship with my clients that allows me to introduce these different mediums into their sessions. So, but to get them started with someone who's not used to playing with Legos, I do two models. I do a bridge and I do a tower, and that's just to get them used to or comfortable with playing with the Legos. But I also add an assessment component to it. So for the tower, you just ask them to build a tower, and you can give them whatever instructions you want to give them. You don't tell them, you know, how big, how small, how tall, how wide, or anything. You just tell them build a tower, and you want to start with a base plate, and then you want to end with, you can do whatever. I typically tell them to put a minifigure on top of the tower, but if they don't have a lot of minifigures or minifigures period, then you can ask them to use a different color brick to put at the top of their tower, and that just helps with reflection and insight when you are going to start exploring their tower. So you start with the tower. And so this is my tower that I built today. And so my tower, and hopefully you all can see this. My tower, this is a dangerous tower. So if I was to tell, like I said, I work with a lot of kids that are involved in the foster care system, or I've worked with adults who have been victimized or abused. And so safety and security is a big concern for them, and what I see a lot in my practice. So build a dangerous tower. That's just the instruction. Start with a base plate. So here's my base plate. And at the top of your tower, you put a minifigure or another brick or whatever. And so with my tower, I'm just going to tell the story of my tower. This is a safety and security tower. And the reason I said danger, because I can explore if the child is still in danger, right? Or I can explore the type of danger that this child has encountered in their life, or even the adult, what type of danger that they encountered. And the danger is subjective, and so I leave it up to them. So this is my dangerous tower, and I have my elevator. And if I was telling a story about this tower, I have the elevator because I got to get to the top, and I'm not walking up the steps. I don't like walking up steps. So I created an elevator, right? And so, but for here, this is like power, my power, and I can see the power. And I don't know if you can see the little black piece in there is my power ball to continue generating power for me that I need to work through challenging situations in my life. And so as we go up, this is my power grid here. And this is the direct connect that I control the power grid, right? And so for safety, I have these windmill or repellers, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever the client says it is. So if I stayed in a metaphor, this is a windmill, although someone else may say it's a repeller. So you want to stay in the metaphor, and whatever the client says it is, that's what it is, because it's their story. And so we have the repellers here to fuel, to make sure that you still have the fuel to be protected. And so when the repellers will turn when danger is sensed, and you can launch the missiles. We have missiles here. We can launch missiles for protection. Or if we need to get a quick getaway, this is here, and they can rappel down from the back of the tower. So I mean, and you just keep going in the story, and you let the client tell the story. So then I would explore more with the client about their tower, and anything that you can amplify the tower. So if you want to talk about a specific part of the tower or want to know more about the tower, you would look at the tower and see where you want to amplify it and have the client tell you more. Or you can ask the client what part of the tower would they focus on to talk about more. So if I am the therapist and I want to know more about the missiles, so I would focus more on the missiles. But a client may want to talk about something else. But you explore the model, and that's how you amplify it, and you can keep giving directives to just go deeper, right? So that's it. You want to go deeper. And especially since it's an assessment activity, you want to find out more. So this can be considered a play-based assessment instead of just having the client sit across from you talking and asking questions. You are having them build a Lego model and exploring that. And again, like I said, I did a safety and security. So this is a dangerous tower. So that's the tower. And it's an activity you can say do all one color. You can say do two colors. You don't want to interrupt the client while they are building. You want to make sure that the client has ample time, so it's not on your timeline, it's on their timeline. You may want to get to something else, but it's not about us, it's about them. So one of the things I do is I continue to ask, do you need more time? I don't give them time limits. I just wait about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I ask, do you need more time? And if they say yes, how much more time do you need? If they say like 3 minutes, 3 minutes up, they still building, I don't interrupt that building. Do you need more time? Now, the only way I would not do that, and this is in the assessment phase, but I would not do that, and I would give time limits if I was trying to achieve or get certain information out of them. Then no, I'm not going to allow them to go the whole session with just building. I'll tell them we can get back to that, but can I ask you a couple of questions? But up front, they will know if I have any questions, or they'll know that I'm trying to solicit specific information. I'm very upfront with my clients. Say, hey, can we explore this? And then we can go back to doing something else that you want to do. So if you all have any questions, I'm trying to look at the chat box too. So if you have any questions, please just feel free to put them in the chat about incorporating Legos into your practice. So one of the things about Legos is that it facilitates, right? I use it as, ooh, hold up, sorry, not used to having these type of earbuds in. Facilitated thinking. So the reason I like using Legos, because it facilitates thinking, it facilitates communication, right? And problem solving. So we're helping clients solve problems, and we're facilitating communication. Now, if you're using Legos with family members and couples, you want to make sure that everyone is building, and everyone who builds shares their story. If they're not willing to share the story, then they shouldn't be involved in the building of the activity. And that should be explained up front, because it's about helping systems change behaviors. And if one part of that system is not going to be involved, and then more than likely there's still going to be a disconnect. So I remember working with a couple who that one didn't want to build, but then when the other started telling their story from their build, they wanted to keep jumping in. And the reason you want to give the instructions or the directions up front is because you can always go back to that. You can always refer back to that. The client did not, they didn't want to build. So I'm trying to see if, okay, they didn't want to build, but then when the partner was explaining their Lego build, they wanted to keep jumping in, and I had to keep saying, you know what? Nope. You can do the next build. We gave you the instructions up front, and you didn't want to build, let them express what they need to express. And then they got real into it. So you want, when they want to, so you don't want to stop them from participating in a therapy session. So you create an opportunity for them to build, because again, you want to identify what the issues are so they can start working through their issues. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the comments. Okay. But you want to create, and even with family members, I get it with family members too, where there are family members that don't want to build, and then they want to be a part of the discussion or the processing, but you didn't build, so the input is not there. So you create an opportunity for them to build as well. And so you can always backtrack and then let them be a part of it. And then you do shared models, especially is important for groups. If you're doing it with groups, even if they're not family members, everyone that builds need to share. And that needs to be explained up front. So you want to make sure, that that's explained up front. But let me see, what else about Legos? Oh, yeah, so you can just lead them through a series of questions to help them go deeper. And I'm not sure how much more time I have on here. So, okay. All right, so so one of my favorite activities is the bridge. And let me bring this bridge over here. Let me make sure that it is stable. All right, so here's my bridge, right? And so what you want to do is ask the client to build a bridge, and you give them the directive to build a bridge. And the bridge, and the way I use it, especially for assessment purposes, so both of these activities is for assessment purposes. So I build a bridge, have them build a bridge, and the directive is for them to build a bridge tall enough for at least one hand to fit under the bridge. So my hand could fit under the bridge, and I will go into why I do that. So I started out with just the bridge part here, and then I reinforced it. So once you build the bridge, you want to see how strong the bridge is. So I would ask a client, if that bridge, is the bridge strong enough to hold your problems, your concerns, your thoughts, anything that's bringing you to therapy? And if it's not, then that's where all of my reinforcements is. I will help them identify resources that they need to reinforce their bridge so they could go back in. And so if I did this here, let me see if I turn that down a little bit. So I can put these plates in here up under the bridge to reinforce it. So those are like your coping skills. What do you need to cope? What do you need to reinforce this bridge to hold what it is that you need to hold? And you can also use it for scaling. So if you just continue to let the client build out, you use it for scaling. So what I did, and what I mean, so I did a monochrome build. So I would have a client do a monochrome build. And what that is different colors, different shades of the same color. So I chose green because it was the first thing that I just took out of the box. And as you can see, I have Duplo Legos and regular Legos on here. So you can combine your Duplo Legos and your regular Legos. People think that you can only do Lego-based play therapy with the traditional Legos, but you can do the Duplo as well. As a matter of fact, this model has more Duplo Legos than any other ones, but I still have some of the traditional ones. And so I use the monochrome build to scale problems and to scale emotions. And what I mean by that is, so if you had, let's say, anger, this is a build for anger. And most people don't represent green with anger, but if that's the color that the client chooses, we don't tell them what color represents an emotion or a feeling for them. They get to choose. But like I said, I just chose this because it was the first color sitting on top. So, but scaling it, I can ask them, what's the intensity of your anger? Use the colors to tell me the intensity of your anger. Is the lighter green more intense, or is the darker green more intense? Which one is in the middle? And so to continue on my build, I have I can still scale this by adding, it was green. And so the directive was to use one color. So this is green. And I'm going to get to the comments in a second. So this is green. And that's the only reason I chose it, because it was green and met the directive. But I can scale it like your anger on this side. This is the lower intensity of your anger. So what does your anger look like when it's in the middle, right? And then I have a stack here where you can take the lever, you can use the lever to go over and talk more about the anger as it gets, well, you get the idea, it's not staying on. But the lever goes over, and this is the smokestack. That's when the anger starts coming out of the smokestack. And then you just process it. So you just allow them to build, and then what are the resources to help them? This is a light. I should have put my document camera on there. So these two things right here have beacons of light. So that represents hope for being able to control anger. So that's how I use, those are just two of the ways that I use Legos as an assessment activity. There's so much about Legos. I don't know where else to go. So if you have questions, I can answer your questions. But those are two basic builds that I use for Legos. So let me see. Hi, Althea. I'm a therapist and have many kiddos who love Legos. Oh, great. So I don't know if you have questions. I can start answering your questions. I just love play therapy. I love Legos. I've grown very fond of Legos, and I use them often. Like I said, I even use Legos to gain insight for myself. I can wake up and things are not feeling so great, and I'm like, what is going on? Or if things are just feeling off, I will go to either my sand tray, do a therapeutic scrapbooking page, or build Legos and do some reflection around it. So it's just great. It's just an all around great resource to have. Being intentional about it. That's the one thing for me. I have to be intentional about any activities that I bring into my play therapy room with my clients so that it serves a purpose. And so facilitating communication and helping process through different emotions. That's primarily what I use my Legos for. So can you share an assessment document that would go with this type of assessment? An assessment document. I'm not sure of an assessment document. I'm very I trust my judgment a lot, and so I'm not sure what you mean by an assessment document that would go with this type of assessment. You can use your general assessment document that you have in your practice, and you can use those questions on there and ask them to do a Lego build based on those questions. So, like with my assessment documents, I do a trauma assessment with everyone. I'm a trauma professional. So, I do a trauma assessment with everyone that comes into my practice. So, I would say, if the one of the questions on there is what is the most difficult thing that you have encountered in your life, so I would turn that into a Lego build or a sand tray creation. So I don't know if that answers your question about an assessment on my assessment, but Dr. Eliana Gill has a play-based assessment book, and you can get a lot of the assessment questions out of there and just have them do Lego builds from that. So I hope that that was helpful. Um, let's see. I think I almost. Can you share a model that you brought that helps build a tower? model that you brought that helps build the tower? Oh, just regular Legos. I tell people that, and even when I do Lego trainings, and people say, "Do I need Legos?" If you want to engage in the activities because it's all experiential, then yes, have Legos. And just getting that $4.99 box or that $9.99 box. You don't need a whole bunch of Legos. I have a gazillion Legos because I use them for in corporations and in therapy. But just a basic Lego box can help. And if you go on by directives or use it and you want to use directives, all of the Lego boxes come with a book. So one of the things you could do is ask the client to look at the book and choose a model. Choose a model to build, and whatever they build, you just explore it and explore whether or not it has a connection to their life, and what are the resemblances, what are the differences. So you can just use any box of Legos that come with a book. And if you buy your Legos from like I can't think of all of the different websites that sell Legos. They just purchase a whole bunch of Legos and then they sell them. You can still go on the website and get a book. You can Google Lego builds and build from there. So it's really easy to incorporate it as a directive by asking, for them to choose a model that they see and build it, and then just explore it based on what you know, based on what you want to know about the client. So let's see, just really, or even the bridge, just really what you buy. Oh yeah, no, like I said, I just buy Legos. Now some of my Legos are the Microsoft, like the not Microsoft, what are they called? The Windows exploration kits. But those are not easily available. They're on the Lego website, but they only come in boxes of 100 because they are really used for businesses. And the starter kit, when I do Legos in corporations, the starter kit, everyone should have that. I have new starter kits because everyone need to have the same build. So if you're doing it with families and you're doing it with couples or you're doing it with groups, you want to make sure that you have enough Legos of the same type so they can build from instruction, right? So you want to make sure that if you're going to have a family session and you have 5 family members in your session and you're going to use Legos, I would advise to do that, find one of those $4.99 boxes, and then I just throw everything into my bins, right? I don't keep them separated by colors or anything. That would have been helpful doing this monochrome build today, but I just throw everything in the same bins. But if you're going to have them building, you don't know if they're going to choose the same. And if they want to choose the same type of model to build, you want to make sure that you have everything that you need for them to build their models, because they may have a different perspective from it. So in situations like that, instead of buying the $32, what are they, $32 a piece kits from Lego, just get the $4.99 boxes and get enough for each person that's going to be in the session, so you can have the same Legos for them. Any specific exercises that you do with children who struggle with anxiety or ADHD? Yes, you can do a build. So one of my favorite builds is build your nightmare, right? And then it's whatever you want to put on the end of it. So you can say, build your nightmare. I love using build your nightmare parent, build your nightmare child, build your nightmare spouse when I'm doing family work or couples work. But you can ask them to just do a build of what their anxiety looks like. Or, if you can sit still, because, if you can sit still, what would that look like? Build a chair, right? You can say, build a chair. I tell people, trust your instinct. Don't be afraid to just go outside of the box. A lot of the things that I do, I could read about something or I see something and I'm like, oh, let me see if that'll work as a play therapy activity. And guess what? You repair. If it doesn't come out, I apologize. I've been doing this for a long time and I still apologize to my clients because I'll have a creative idea like, oh, let's try this. And they looking at me like, why did you have me do this? Or this was like horrible. And I apologize. I'm like, okay, I repair it. I'm like, it sounded way cooler in my head, right? So forgive me. It sounded way cooler in my head. But some of my best activities come out of just trusting my gut or just trying things. So don't be afraid to try it. It's Lego builds, we're modeling that we're human and make mistakes. So, I think either way the client wins, even with me apologizing. So you can just ask them to build what their anxiety looked like, or if they didn't have anxiety anymore, what would they be able to do? Kids and clients are very creative, and you'll be surprised what they come up with. So trust your gut and whatever information you want to find out. One of the best things to do is if you have an anxiety-based or anxiety-based book or ADHD book or the symptoms, have them build their symptoms and talk about them and then talk about coping skills and coping strategies. And that's when you amplify it and add on coping builds. Just like for my bridge, I added on, I didn't talk about my bridge. So even with this is the top of my bridge and it has crowns. And so, I'm the light and the queen of my problems, right? So you can continue to add, directives to even explore the coping strategies part. I don't always focus on the negative because that kind of seems like there's no hope. Yes, they're coming to therapy for issues that's causing stress or problems, but you have to instill some type of hope. So you want to make sure that your builds are not always, even if you're not doing Lego builds, you're doing sand tray or even just regular talk therapy. You want to make sure that you're instilling hope and not always focusing on the negative, especially when dealing with children and teens, because they probably get that so much in their home environments, in their school environments, that your place, your space is supposed to be a safe space and a space of hope, and help. So focusing on that, and that's why I always tell parents and kids, I'm not the disciplinarian, and I come to an agreement. And again, going back to relationships, what we do is relational. We have to build relationships with our clients. So I have a relationship with my clients' parents. Like if they're grounded, that stuff stays at home. We don't bring that into my therapy room. If you want to talk about it, we can do a family session and everything, but I'm not the disciplinarian. Please don't tell your child that they're going to be in trouble with me, because they're not, right? So it's all about building those relationships. But going back to the anxiety or ADHD, trust your gut. Whatever it is that you want to find out, use your resources. You can Google ADHD activities and incorporate Legos into those activities if you don't have the books. Do you tell the feeling when given the instruction? We're discussing your anger. No, we don't. I don't give the feeling. I let them choose it. I just chose anger. I just chose anger today. And I chose anger today because I have a training tomorrow and I lost the slides. I stayed up all night to finish those slides and then I didn't save them. So then I was like, I have to do this. But I was feeling anger, feeling some anger. So when I did this, I just did a bridge. I don't name the feeling or the emotion. I allow them to do it unless I want to, unless I am specifically trying to gauge where they are or get specific information out of them. I totally leave it up to them. Let me see the assessment tool you use with Legos. Again, no assessment tool. I just go off of what it is that I want to know, but you can use your assessment. If you have a standard assessment tool, you can definitely adapt those questions to using Legos and sand tray. Starter Lego kits to buy. Again, just the basic the classic Lego sets, they have a lot of builds in them. And you could get them from anywhere from like 120 pieces up to 560 pieces. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve with them. I have used Lego so much in my therapy with kids. It is a great rapport building activity. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome for the ideas. Again, this thing right here. Let me see. How do you combine other manipulatives within the Lego play therapy? Um, I don't. I just say if I'm using Lego, no, let me not say that. I can do a art-based activity, and then if I wanted to amplify something that's in the art-based, and I pay attention, I'm observing my clients. That's why we have to not only show up but be present. So observing my clients, how they're reacting or responding to things, we may need to switch it up. So if I start out with a art-based activity, and I see that they're not really into it, or there's more I want to explore, but that's not the medium for them, then I'll switch to sand tray or to Legos and just amplify anything that I want to know that happened, that they put in their drawing. So why did you make sure the bridge is able to fit above the hand? Oh, so the bridge, so I can reinforce it. So if I built the bridge just flat, I want to reinforce it. So that's an activity that I do. You don't have to make the bridge. You can just ask them to do a bridge. But I ask them to make sure you can put your hand through it just in case they need to build reinforcements, because some bridges fall when it's not stable. And then you want to reinforce it. And so you can always talk about what is it that you need in your life to help you get over this problem or manage this problem or this situation. So bringing in the reinforcements, that's just a way for me to talk about being able to bring in other things to help them with their problems. Talk about to be a practitioner, please. Your Lego training. Oh, so I like I said, I went through I am a certified Lego serious play facilitator. I went through an intensive training with Robert Rasmussen, who is one of the creators of Lego serious play. So we did an intensive training. I've been doing facilitated Lego workshops, whether with play therapy or in corporations, which is what it's for. It's a business design strategy methodology. And then actually this summer, is it this summer or has it already passed? Well, anyway, I will be starting the process to become a trainer. So a Lego serious play trainer. So you have to be a facilitator for 2 years before you can even start the process to become a Lego serious play trainer. So, but it like I said, it was more business, but because it's grounded in cognitive principles, it was easy for me to modify it to work for my psychotherapy practice. So, all right. So I think that was all of the questions. I think I went through all of the questions. If you have any other questions, I can stay on for a couple more minutes. Other than that, where can we obtain training? You can. So there are a lot of people who are doing training, doing Lego trainings now. So if you look in some of those groups, if you're a part of a lot of the play therapy groups, people post trainings either on a Monday or a Wednesday. My training are posted on my website, www.unicornlifetraining.net. I actually have Adlerian, so I'm adapting Lego-based play therapy to Adlerian play therapy theory, and that training is next week, and then we have another one. But all of my training are listed on unicornlifetraining.net for those who are. So a lot of people get confused about why they think that the training is just for play therapists. It's not. In order for me, I am a approved provider for the Association for Play Therapy. So in order for me to be able to offer play therapy CEs for credentialing, the training has to say play therapy in it. But it's for any professional, mental health professional working with working with clients. So yeah, that's where you can go for my training. But a lot of the training is posted in a lot of those different play therapy groups. So you would have to like search. Oh, thank you, Erica, for putting my website in there. You would have to search Lego for specific Lego based training, but all of mine are listed on my website. So I think that was all of the notes that I had. I mean, things to talk about. The 3D models. So you can do a discussion based off the 3D models, and so that's the purpose of doing the constructs in 3D form. It brings it to life. You can tell stories about it. Again, the child can, or the parent, or whoever can stay in the metaphor, or they can use their real life experiences. But pretty much problem solving and decision making. So I don't know. That's what I have about Legos. I just actually I love using Legos. I love play therapy in general. So you can use, and you can combine it. You see my books. You can combine Legos with books. I did the Pout Pout Fish, right? And this is a way that you can do one, two, three. I'm trying to think how many activities you could do with them. Great, say three. I think I did it with three, but you may have more, right? So I use Pout Pout Fish. So that's one play therapy modality. I use bibliotherapy. So I read the story, and then I did the art-based directive, create your rainbow fish. And when you create your rainbow fish, put different emotions and feelings per color, because the rainbow fish and Pout Pout Fish is a rainbow fish. And so then you can amplify that by having them do feelings, different feelings and emotions based on the color. So if it's blue, green, red, pink, then you do that. I do no more than six feelings or emotions. And then we talk about the associated thoughts. So then I can transition that into Legos and have them to create a rainbow fish, right? And you can find, I had to find it on the internet. So I Googled a fish, Lego fish model. And so I built my rainbow fish using the different colors that the child selected. And this was a telehealth activity because I haven't been doing in person. So all of this was done via the internet. I read the book. We talked about it. Some of the books you can find already on the internet, and you could just share your screen. But I like reading the book and turning it around for the more interactive effect, and then having the client draw the fish, different fish, and putting the emotions in, and we talk about it. And then we create our own Lego models using the video. And it took a lot. It says it only takes 3 minutes to build that fish, but I swear it took us over 30 minutes to build that one little fish. So that's another way to use Legos and combine it with other play therapy or expressive activities. So, all right. Do we have any? Oh, you're welcome for the information. So if you all have no other questions, I guess that is my time. I hope this was informative. You can use Legos. Positive psychology. One of the ways that I often use Legos with adults is using positive psychology, right? Because it doesn't focus on the psychopathology of depression, anxiety. It focuses on helping. Are you going to post this? Going to post what? I'm sorry. Hey, Kathy, am I going to post what? I'm trying to read that. trying to read your comments too. But using positive psychology, because it focuses on, helping you experience emotions and feelings better, or changing your thoughts. So for adults, I primarily use, it doesn't matter which medium of play therapy I use or expressive activities. I typically combine positive psychology with my work with adults in play therapy. So I get that question a lot. How do I use play therapy with adults? Even with the Legos, I I combine it with positive psychology. So just wanted to share that, because you can use play therapy with adults. It's very effective. I've been doing it for years, and I also use it in my own self work. And sometimes it's like, whoa, I didn't know I was feeling that way. Let me explore this with my therapist. Yes, I am a therapist with a therapist. My therapist is not a play therapist, but she be intrigued by the stuff that I take in to her, how I process or explore my own emotions and try to figure things out. So, yes, I'm a therapist with a therapist, so I want to normalize that. I have to have therapy to be able to do the things that I do. I'm a trauma therapist, and I have my own stuff, as we all do with life. So I have a therapist and want to normalize that. So I know the therapeutic benefits of play therapy, from being a registered play therapist and using play therapy for so many years, but also what it does for my own mental health and well-being. So, all right. If you don't have any other questions, I will go ahead and end this live. If you have any questions afterwards, just put them in the comments and I'll respond to the questions in the comments. But Kathy, this video. I don't know, Dan, are you going to post this video, Dan? I think it's because it's live in Facebook. Once we finish the live, it'll upload as a replay. I think that's how Facebook Live works. But yeah, but if you all have any other questions, just put them in the comments, and I will check back to be able to answer those questions for you. Thanks. Just caught the end from the UK. All right. Well, if you have any, thank you for joining us. And just if you have any questions, once you listen to the replay or view the replay, just post your questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And again, today was just about assessment, just using it for assessment purposes, but you could do introspective, like I have introspective brick building, trauma narratives. So I did Legos and trauma in the sand. So you can pretty much just be creative. That's what I encourage you to do. I make a lot of stuff up. And I'm just being honest. I make a lot of stuff up. And sometimes it's just, oh my God, great. Sometimes it's, oh my God, I can't believe my mind came up with that. Right? But again, I repair it by apologizing. And that's okay. So just be creative. Don't be afraid. Be creative. So, oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I got to finish those slides for tomorrow, Erica. So I'm going to jump off because I do have a training starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning on sand trade. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you have any questions, just post them here, and I will check back periodically to make sure I respond to your questions. All right, y'all, take care, be safe, and just be creative and expressive, right? Just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. All right, bye-bye.